You open your fridge every day, sometimes 5, 6, 10 times, and trust that everything inside is safe, fresh, and protected. But what if I told you that some of the foods sitting quietly on those chilly shelves are actually losing their nutrients? Or worse, becoming harmful just because they're cold? It sounds strange, doesn't it? We were raised to believe the fridge was a safe haven. Cold means preserved. Cold means clean. But here's the truth. Not all foods belong in the refrigerator. And for seniors over 60 storing certain items, the wrong way could be quietly working against your health. The weird part, you may be refrigerating exactly what you shouldn't and forgetting to chill the foods that must be kept cold. So today, we're setting the record straight. We'll uncover 4 common foods that should never be stored in your fridge and 4 others that absolutely must stay cold to keep you safe, strong, and healthy. Some of these might surprise you. One of them could be sitting in your fridge right now, changing texture, breaking down nutrients, and possibly raising your risk for foodborne illness. So stay with us through the end, because this might just save you a trip to the doctor. And before we get started, we'd love to know, how often do you check your fridge for expired or spoiled food? Once a week, once a month, or never? Let us know in the comments. You might be shocked at what others say. Now let's take a closer look at what not to refrigerate. Starting with something you've probably had for breakfast this week. Let's begin with something that seems harmless: bread. A loaf of bread in the fridge feels like a smart choice, doesn't it? You're thinking, it'll stay fresh longer. No mold, no waste. But the truth is, the fridge might actually be ruining it. Here's what most people don't realize. When you refrigerate bread, the cold air causes the starches to crystallize faster. That's a fancy way of saying your bread goes stale quicker. It becomes dry, rubbery, and loses that soft, comforting texture we all love. Now, imagine this for a senior A slice that's tough to chew, toast that breaks into sharp crumbs, and bread that no longer feels like the foundation of a good meal, but just another disappointment on the plate. And it's not just about taste or texture. Hard, dry bread is harder to digest. For older adults with sensitive stomachs or dental issues, this can mean bloating, gas, or skipped meals entirely. So what should you do instead? Keep your bread in a cool, dry pantry in its original packaging, or a cloth bag that allows it to breathe. Only freeze it if you really must store it longer, and always slice before freezing, so you can toast individual pieces as needed. Let's be clear, bread isn't the enemy, but storing it the wrong way. That's how we turn a good thing into a bad habit. And what about bananas? You might be chilling away their goodness. Bananas are a breakfast favorite, soft, sweet, packed with potassium, and easy on the stomach. But the fridge, that's the last place they belong. Here's what happens. Cold temperatures interfere with the natural ripening enzymes in bananas. Instead of slowly turning golden and sweet, they start to turn brown, spotty, and mushy, sometimes overnight. It's not just unappetizing, it's a nutritional loss. You see, bananas are rich in vitamin C, potassium, and antioxidants, but these nutrients begin to break down rapidly when exposed to cold. What you get is a fruit that looks bad, tastes dull, and delivers far less of what your body needs. Now picture this through the eyes of a senior. You reach for a banana, expecting that familiar, comforting bite, and instead, it's cold, grainy, and flavorless. So you toss it out. Or worse, you eat it anyway and feel gassy, bloated, or uncomfortable the rest of the day. That's not a good trade-off. So what's the better way? Store bananas at room temperature, away from direct sunlight. If you want to slow ripening, try separating them from the bunch or hanging them up. And when they're overripe, don't rush to toss them. Freeze them, peeled and sliced for smoothies or banana bread. The banana is a fantastic fruit, gentle on digestion, easy to eat, full of energy. But the fridge, it's no friend to your banana or your body. Peanut butter. It looks fine in the fridge, but it's not doing you any favors. Let's face it, peanut butter is one of the most convenient senior-friendly foods out there. It's soft, protein-rich, doesn't require cooking, and goes perfectly with Apple's toast, or just a spoon. So when people refrigerate it to make it last longer, it sounds like a reasonable idea, but in reality, cold storage ruins what makes peanut butter so great. Here's why. When refrigerated, natural oils in peanut butter harden and separate. The texture changes. Instead of smooth and spreadable, it becomes stiff and chunky. For someone over 60, especially with arthritis or weak grip, that's not just annoying, it's exhausting. You end up wrestling with a cold jar, scraping at the sides, trying to stir rock-solid paste. And when it's finally edible, it's no longer enjoyable. There's more cold temperatures can dull the roasted flavor and make healthy, unsweetened peanut butter taste bitter. Worse yet, people may start adding sugar or switching to sweetened brands just to make it palatable again. And that's the real danger. A healthy staple turns into a sugar trap. So here's what to do. Store your peanut butter in a cool, dark pantry, tightly sealed. It'll last for weeks without refrigeration, and the texture will stay creamy and easy to use. Peanut butter should support your health, not fight you back. Keep it out of the fridge, and you'll enjoy every spoonful like you used to. And then there are onions. Good for your heart, bad for your fridge. Onions are one of the most used ingredients in American kitchens. From soups to stews, sandwiches to stir-fries. They add flavor depth and even heart health benefits. But when you store them in the fridge, that's where things go wrong. The cold, moist environment inside your refrigerator causes onions to absorb moisture and turn soft. Their skins become damp and slippery. They start to sprout early. And worst of all, they can grow hidden mold between the layers without you even noticing. That mold doesn't just ruin the onion. It can spread to nearby produce or contaminate surfaces when chopped. Walter 72 shared this with us. I thought I was being smart, keeping them in the crisper drawer, but I couldn't figure out why my onions kept going bad so fast. One day, I cut one open, and it was black inside. That shook me. It's more common than you'd think. And for seniors with a sensitive gut or weaker immune system, mold exposure can lead to stomach trouble, allergic reactions, or even infections if left unchecked. So here's the better way. Store onions in a dry, open basket in your pantry or cabinet, away from potatoes, which release moisture and gas that speed up spoilage. Let them breathe. Avoid plastic bags or sealed containers, and always check the layers before slicing. Onions are a gift to your meals and your health, just not when they've been hiding, sweating and spoiling in your fridge. But not everything belongs outside the fridge. In fact, some things must stay cold. We've talked about the foods that suffer in the fridge, bread that goes stale, bananas that turn mushy peanut butter, that gets hard, and onions that mold in silence. But now, let's shift gears, because while some foods hate the cold, others depend on it. For older adults, especially those with weakened immune systems or chronic conditions, keeping certain foods cold isn't optional, it's essential. Why? Because bacteria don't just grow in summer. They thrive in room temperature. Kitchens, especially when leftovers sit out too long, or dairy isn't properly chilled. So, in this next part, we're going to uncover 4 everyday foods that must be stored in the fridge and explain exactly why skipping the cold can put your health at risk. And just a heads up, one of these items often gets left on the counter longer than it should, and it's one of the fastest to spoil. Let's take a look at what needs the chill, starting with the food that many seniors love to reheat but rarely store correctly. Let's start with the leftovers, because what you reheat can sometimes hurt you. That leftover roast beef from Sunday dinner, the grilled chicken you meant to eat yesterday but forgot. They may look and smell fine, but without refrigeration, they could be carrying something dangerous. Here's the thing. Most people overlook. Bacteria doesn't need to make food smell bad to be deadly. Pathogens, like Listeria, Salmonella, and E. coli thrive at room temperature, and cooked meats become prime targets after just 2 hours on the counter. For seniors, the risk is even greater. One bite of contaminated food can mean days of diarrhea, vomiting, dehydration, or worse, hospitalization. Diane, 67, shared her story with us. I had a leftover chicken breast sitting on the stove. It was cool to the touch, didn't smell funny, so I reheated it and ate it. That night, I couldn't keep anything down. I ended up at urgent care with food poisoning. What's scary is this happens all the time, especially when people think, it'll be fine for a little while, but time and temperature don't play nice. So here's what to do. As soon as food cools, to room temp within 2 hours, max. Pack it into airtight containers and refrigerate at or below 40 degrees. Leftovers should be eaten within 3 to 4 days and always reheated thoroughly, not just warmed up. Cooked food may feel safe, but if it's been sitting out too long, it might not be food anymore. It might be a hazard. Milk, cheese, yogurt, daily staples that demand the cold. We've all done it. Left a glass of milk on the table a bit too long. Let the yogurt sit out while chatting after breakfast. Cheese on the counter during dinner prep, just for a little while. But dairy doesn't play along. Milk and dairy spoil faster than most people realize, especially in warmer kitchens. Even a short time outside the fridge can invite bacteria to multiply rapidly, breaking down proteins and producing toxins that the nose doesn't always catch. By the time you notice the sour smell or clumpy texture, it's already too late. And for older adults with sensitive stomachs, spoiled dairy can cause bloating, cramping, nausea, or full-blown food poisoning. Let's not forget that pasteurization delays spoilage. It doesn't prevent it forever. Once opened, that milk has a ticking clock. So, does that cottage cheese or half-used yogurt? A viewer named Carl74 put it simply, I used to drink milk straight from the jug on the counter while making coffee. Got sick 3 mornings in a row and couldn't figure it out until my son told me it was the milk. So what's the fix? Keep all dairy in the back of the fridge where the temperature stays. Most stable, never in the door, which warms up every time you open it. Seal containers tightly and watch those expiration dates closely. Dairy is rich in calcium, protein and vitamins, but only when it's fresh and only when it's cold. Leafy greens powerful for your health but fragile without the cold. Spinach, kale, romaine. These leafy greens are some of the healthiest foods you can eat. They're packed with fiber, folate, vitamin A, C, and K, and they support everything from vision to blood pressure to digestion. But their benefits vanish quickly. If you don't keep them cold, you see, leafy greens are delicate. Unlike root vegetables, they wilt and spoil fast when left at room temperature, even just for a few hours. They start to lose moisture. Their edges brown, and nutrients like vitamin C and folate begin to break down rapidly. And by the time they look unappetizing, they've already lost much of what makes them good for you. What's worse, spoiled greens can grow harmful bacteria like E. coli or listeria, especially when pre-washed and sealed in plastic. One contaminated bag can lead to days of discomfort, or far worse. Betty, 69, shared this. I left my bag of spinach on the counter after grocery shopping, just forgot. Next morning, it was soggy and smelled off. I made a salad anyway, and spent the next day with cramps and nausea. Never again. Here's what you should do. Store leafy greens in the crisper drawer of your fridge wrapped in a paper towel to absorb moisture. Keep them in breathable bags and try to use them within 3 to 5 days. They may seem delicate, but with the right care, leafy greens are a powerhouse for senior health eggs, a breakfast favorite that must stay cold. Especially in the US, eggs are a staple in senior households. Scrambled, boiled, poached, or baked into a casserole. They're affordable, nutritious, and easy to cook. But here's the surprising truth. If you live in the United States, your eggs must be refrigerated, not just for freshness, but for safety. Why? Because in the US, eggs are washed and sanitized before reaching grocery shelves. This process removes their natural protective coating, leaving them more vulnerable to bacteria, especially Salmonella. That means leaving eggs at room temperature for just a few hours can let bacteria multiply on the shell and potentially seep inside. Mary, 70, told us I grew up in the South and we always kept eggs on the counter, but last year I cracked one and it smelled awful, even though it wasn't expired. Since then, I keep them cold and don't take chances. This confusion is understandable. In Europe, eggs are often unwashed and still have that natural layer, so they're safely stored outside the fridge. But in the US, keeping eggs cold is not optional. It's essential. So, what should you do? Store eggs in their original carton in the back of the fridge, not in the door where temperatures fluctuate. Use them within 3 to 5 weeks and always cook thoroughly before eating. Eggs can be a perfect protein for seniors. Just don't let the chill fool you. In this case, the fridge is your friend. Your fridge isn't just a box that keeps food cold. It's a tool that protects your health. Storing the wrong foods the wrong way can quietly undo the good you're trying to do, but now you know better. So take a few minutes today, check your fridge, rethink what goes in and what stays out. Your energy, digestion, and safety depend on it. And if this helped, you don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Senior Health Wise for more smart, simple ways to live well after 60.